The more you try to keep me down and keep my head above the water, you can never hold me down. The more you try to block me out, that's where I kick the wall down. You can never hold me back. The more you try to put me out, the more I'll be blazing, it's too hot. The more you try to put me in the dirt, increase my work, the expert. You see the hunger in the eyes of a survivor. Swallowed my pride, washed down with some saliva. Reinvented my whole life, mental MacGyver. One door shut, another open up, wider. Listen, battle drums in the distance.
Hey everybody, it's Casey with Pinecase, the podcast where music is our drug of choice. And tonight we're hanging out with Victor, the founder of the Dagen project. Welcome to Pinecase. Yeah, man. Yeah. I'm super excited because not very often do I get to bring, I shouldn't say not very often, but Calico does such a great job with programming that I have sometimes a hard time kind of slipping in people. And you were somebody that I got to meet in my personal life. In a very intimate sort of way in this experience that, you know, some people kind of go their whole life without experiencing. And for me, it was a very powerful moment. I'm not sure if everybody felt that way, but I definitely left there being like, that is somebody who I feel I'm going to cross paths with again and again and again. And then to see your project come up with such, you know, like fierce and like excitement and color, and I was just like, holy crap, like, you know what you're doing, you got your brand package on point, and now I know when I see orange, I'm like, I know exactly what that's about. Like,
yes.
Congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, of course. Would you mind letting the people know a little bit about your project?
Yeah, sure. First of all, thank you for having me on this platform. Yeah. I'm super honored to be here, and I'm super excited to like share this moment with you. I also share the same sentiments. Meeting Kalisha was a great moment because I think we just were in the right place at the right time, and I was just busy talking about mental health, and somehow we connected, and that's kind of how we're here. So thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
So my name is Victor, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Dagen project. Dagen is a pretty new men's mental health initiative, and we're based in Edmonton, Alberta. So my goal with Dagen was to sort of bring community together to kind of support and advocate for men's mental health. So I kind of used my personal experience and my personal work in nonprofit to kind of bring together something that's artistic and also speaks to people, because I think that a lot of the time men are struggling and they don't really have the resources. So we needed something bold, and we needed something kind of loud, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do. So that's just a brief bio about me. I love music as well, so that's part of the reason I really wanted to do this as well, is that I think music plays such a big role in mental health, and it's without music, I don't know, it's a hard life without music. So I love music.
And absolutely. And I think, you know, when it comes to men's mental health specifically, and we talk a lot about it on the show, is like, how do you get the resources and the support to the right people? How do you get the ones that maybe aren't interested in like the traditional, you know, platforms or structures to what it looks like? Because I mean, I had a lot of, even just for myself, I mean, and I kind of sit in the demographic where there's a ton of resources. You know, I'm female, I'm middle-aged, I have children, like, so that's like kind of where the resources get funneled to most of the time. And even then I was like, it just doesn't look like something I even really wanted to participate in. It's really dry. They hadn't really changed it in a long time. Or it was so holistic that I was like, this is overwhelming, and I don't really know what to do with this information, because it wasn't very familiar. And so when I seen what you were doing and the campaigns that you were running and the events that you were running, I'm like, this makes sense. This makes sense to me. Like, so tell me a little bit, because I think when we had met in at the festival, you were talking about running, literally like having an event that was about walking over the bridge. Would you mind letting everybody know a little about what that was about?
Yeah, for sure. So this was called. We had a couple names for this, but it basically was across the bridge, and we wanted to do a mental health walk across the high level bridge here in Edmonton.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest things about the high level bridge is that a lot of people, unfortunately, end their lives on the high level bridge, and so I was thinking of a way to kind of commemorate suicide awareness month in September. So we decided to basically do an event, a mental health walk across the bridge. We were supposed to have a walk slash run, but it was kind of cold that day, so we ended up just doing all a walk. But
Right.
yeah. So the idea was to, to bring together, like I said, community members and just honor the fact that, commemorate suicide, and to raise awareness to suicide. I think men are um, always kind of overlooked, and suicide is a big thing. So I think something that I wanted to do with that event was to kind of commemorate, the loss of victims to suicide, and also the grief that comes with suicide as well.
Yeah.
So it was a very powerful event and something that I was honestly grateful to be a part of myself,
Mhm.
because we had to reschedule a bunch of times, and it was also a tough time for me personally too.
Right.
I was sick during that time, so we kept rescheduling, and people were like, "When is the walk gonna happen?" I don't think it's gonna happen. But what I loved was that even that day, I was super nervous that no one would show up. Like
Right.
all the events I run, I'm pretty much scared that no one will come and no one will really, like, people care online, but do they care to show up in person, right?
That's
So
the challenging part
yeah,
about it, right? Do the numbers
yeah.
really yeah,
Yeah,
that's fair, for
yeah.
sure.
And so 8 a.m. that day, we're all supposed to meet at 8 a.m. And basically, this is actually the crack of dawn, like, because it's like 6 a.m. I have to get up, I have to coordinate the volunteers, and it's cold. So I'm like, well, this better be worth it. I hope people do show up.
Right.
And what made it really amazing was the sunset came up right at 8, and I think right at 8:15 or so, and we
Yeah.
got to see the orange sky, like the deep orange of sunset. And it was beautiful because I started to see people coming up to the bridge,
Wow.
and I was like, they're not attending my event; they're just walking. And it was a small group. It was about like 10, 15 of us, but it was such a special event. One of my favorites by far last year. So
Wow,
yeah.
that's you know what, I appreciate that so much because,
Mhm.
I've lost a few people to suicide. I know that there's people in the comments that have lost people to suicide,
Mhm.
and I know that they can, contest to what I'm about to say, and that's, like, a lot of the times when somebody passes away in that capacity, that's kind of the last thing and not the only thing, but that kind of is the first part of the next conversation always, right? It's
Right.
like,
Right.
"Oh, so, oh, yeah, right, when they, did that or when they took
Mhm.
their life or what." It's like
Mhm.
we kind of it almost, like, negates, like, their entire life of
Entire
all of
life.
this
Yeah.
amazing stuff that they have done, and so to be
Mhm.
able to, like, respect what has happened, but almost reclaim it in a sort of way, like, "Okay, we're gonna
Mhm.
take back this space, like, we understand that this
Mhm.
has happened here, but we're gonna live
Mhm.
life in this space, and we're gonna,
Mhm.
bring joy and bring beauty to this space," I think
Yeah.
is just it's a really, powerful thing to do,
Yeah.
so congratulations on your event.
Yeah.
It's
No, thank you.
really
And I,
nice.
I, I I just wanted to say I love what you said about reclaiming a space. I think that's
Yeah.
really, really powerful as well. I did like a test run across the bridge just to like walk by myself, and I actually listened to music when I was
Mhm.
doing that, and I could almost like feel this, this overwhelming sense that, like, we're doing this for people. People need that support to see people walking across the bridge, because if
Yeah.
1,000 of us walk across the bridge, like, everyone's going to be like, oh, why are they walking across the bridge,
Yeah.
so the idea of motivating people and generating a cause, generating support for this cause was it really fueled me at the time, and it still continues to fuel me to reclaim spaces where people have been lost.
Yeah. No, I think it's great. And yeah, it's not just the walk. You're right. Like it's the people that are driving by and like asking questions, and then that creates conversation. And I guess maybe that is more the goal than anything, right? Is to like push those conversations to the forefront and like allow them to happen.
Absolutely.
It's really the only way to kind of deal with stigma. Like I've been trying, I'm like, oh, I always say the ugly things and the hard things that no one else wants to say. And people are like kind of jarred by it. But I'm like, how else do you create the conversations then? How else do you get those things? And I guess, I mean, yeah, you do it in a beautiful way. I do it in maybe a little bit more of like, not so beautiful way, but I definitely appreciate like the outcome remains the same, right? Which is just like making sure that everyone is talking about it essentially. Because suicide awareness is it's I guess now with September, like it's gaining a little bit more traction, but I think it's always been overshadowed. Like we forget about the people that are left behind and and because of the stigma that's attached to suicide, which is ridiculous because everyone has the right to do what they need to do, right? But it's the people that get left behind. It's like, oh well, you're not allowed to like pay your respects in the same way or something. Or I shouldn't maybe say that, but like historically there's been like a lot of stigma surrounding it. So
I understand. That's very true. It's a sensitive topic, and it's hard to discuss, but I think the more we discuss it, the better we all feel, I think. So that's why I talk about it, with my friends. I think it's just important to talk about it for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess, I mean, to do something that goes with dawn and that goes with the sunrise, like what was the idea behind that? Like it
Well, okay, so I guess I should have said one of the things I forgot. I forgot to say in the introduction is what Dagen actually means.
Right.
Dagen is a Danish term that means dawn. So the original pronunciation, and I'm not gonna say it properly, but it's like Dagen.
Okay.
So like it's completely different. I'm not Danish. I'm Nigerian, just for context. But I became fascinated with the idea of dawn and sunrise because I went through a personal depression myself. So I was in school for my master's degree in public policy, and then I had to take some time off. And then during that time, my mental health kind of degraded, and it got really bad where I couldn't find anything out there for men, which is why Dagen kind of came about. And Dagen is actually, it came from something my dad said. And he said during that moment, he was saying that my sun will rise again. Like sun is an S-O-N. And so I became like, I think I just kept that in my mind, and I just started to think about sun as like a sun rising rather than me rising. But, obviously, we both did at the end. So for me, it was just like a light bulb moment. It was something that I was like, you know what? I think I am actually going to do something with my pain, because I went through a really, really rough time where I contemplated many things, and by faith, I'm still standing, and I do feel like it's my passion and it's my work to reach out to men and to connect with them. And it really brings me joy as well. So so Dagen means dawn. It means to illuminate, to rise, to restart. And I could talk about the idea of dawn all day, but I always say dawn is the little bit of light after a long dark period. So it's not necessarily the sunrise, it's actually just before the sunrise. So everyone can have a different dawn, which is why we say for every man a new dawn. So it's just something that really resonated, and it came from my dad. So
Wow, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. It's neat because like Pinecase is named, it maybe not, well, I shouldn't say not by my dad. It's it's amazing the impact that these men have in our life. And like, so Pinecase is like the only thing kind of promised to us at the end of the day, right? Is like a pine casket, like a pine box, right? Like,
oh, that's good. Okay.
Yeah. And Yeah. And so when my dad, when he said to me when I was young, he's like, when I pass away, I want you to find a way to like fish headphones like so that I can like listen to music in my casket. And I was like, are you serious?
Wow.
Yeah. And so like that and so
That's
I
an
like grew
interesting
up
story.
being like, okay, like I got to figure out a way when,
Mm,
heavens forbid when he passes, like a way that I got to somehow get music to my dad. Obviously technology has changed a lot since then. And so it might be a little bit easier than I originally had planned, but yeah, it's yeah. And but that just goes to show you like the profound impact that these men have on us, like
yeah,
um
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's nothing to take away from women at all, because obviously that's we could talk about that for hours, but
Of
there's
course, yeah.
something about men who support each other and are sure of themselves,
Hmm.
that do
Hmm.
something that women, I don't know, I'm going to get hate in the comments maybe, but that women aren't capable of doing. And in
Hmm.
this, and I don't want to say like it's nurture versus nature, but there's
Hmm.
something about the combination of testosterone and
Hmm.
comfort and contentment that
Yeah,
produces just amazing things. And I think it's just so important to make sure that
yeah.
they have the support that we need. I mean, dudes are the backbone of our
Hmm.
society in a sense,
Hmm.
right? Like,
Hmm. I
and
agree.
so
Yeah,
why we and like where we kind of lost touch of like why they don't need support, I guess maybe goes into like the manliness of it all.
yeah, yeah,
However,
yeah.
um, what more important thing to support than the backbone of society, like,
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. I
right?
agree. I agree. And I love that because we're speaking about, fathers and sons and masculinity. And these are all important things because even in my journey, I'm learning a lot about the ideals of masculinity and how I fit into that as well. So it's a personal journey. It's also like I wouldn't say like I have all the knowledge, but there's something really meaningful when like a man affirms another man. And I
Yes.
think that's something that I've noticed even for my dad affirming me, or my
Mhm.
brothers. I have three brothers, thankfully. I have no sisters, which is it's just my mom. But
Right.
but there's something really special when a man sees someone that's like sees another skill or something that's gifted in another man, and they acknowledge it or they just compliment it. And I always remember the compliments I get from other guys because
Yes.
they don't do it a lot.
Yep.
We usually don't do it a lot, so it's more special.
It
Yeah,
is. Oh, that's
yeah,
interesting. I never really thought
yeah,
about that, because
yeah,
and not to say like again that this isn't, but women, we're really good at complimenting each other. We're
yeah,
well practiced
yeah,
in making sure that we're there for each other and stuff like that. So
yeah,
yeah, it is really
yeah,
powerful. I
yeah.
witnessed a conversation between my grandfather and my son. So that would be his
Mm,
his great grandfather. And he
mhm,
said he said a few things, but one thing that kind of stood out, and he was just like, uh be your own man.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it kind of caught me off guard, because I was like, he's 11, right? Like, hold on.
Right.
But a few things happened in that moment. One, I realized that it's not my position to actually say anything. Like, it was not
Mm,
my place to say anything. That was a moment between them, and maybe I shouldn't
mm,
even be telling the world
mm.
about it, but it wasn't. I knew in that moment, as the
Mm.
mom and the granddaughter, that it was not my place to even interject or to like to
Yeah,
add anything or take away anything.
right.
That was their moment.
Yeah.
And my son's response to it was so genuine and beautiful, and he was just like, well, what else would I do? And I was like,
Oh,
damn,
I
right?
love that. I really love that.
And it's like one of those moments where like you can't have that with like that would only happen between two men, like that conversation.
Mm.
If I was like, you got to be your own man, he'd be like, yeah, whatever, mom, like, sure,
Right.
whatever, like,
Exactly. Yeah.
where are my Pokemon
Yeah.
cards or whatever. But like that conversation between them, it was just like they knew exactly what each other were talking about. No one was insulted, no one was like over flattered. It was just like, yep,
Mhm.
got it, okay, move on. And that was it. And I was just like, that is what we need to protect. That is what we need to protect at all
Mhm.
costs, you know, is
Mhm.
that and the love that men share. I
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. That's a powerful moment.
Mhm.
That's the type of moments that Dagen, like, we're all about. Like, I feel like we want to recreate those moments, you know, like to have special relationships, special bonds with other brothers in the community. It could be your father, it could be your, you know, or your
Yeah.
son, but
Yeah.
it's all about having that community. You know, why not have that community? And I thank you for sharing that. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
story.
No, yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you know, I don't, well, you probably don't know a little bit. So
Yeah.
I also had three brothers and well, I
Okay.
mean, four technically. It depends on how you want to look at it, really. And the math will always math depending on what conversation we're having. But
Hmm.
I mean, 4 out of 4 I've lost. And so,
Hmm.
and for all different reasons. And so when
Hmm.
we started this project, it was like, I want to make sure that men know where to go to figure this out because
Hmm.
the you know the loss in the family, I guess, is maybe the same, it's the exact same thing that you're trying to create. And so as a woman, it's a little bit different for me because I'm like trying to convince dudes to have these
Yeah.
interactions in these spaces.
Yeah.
But it's neat to see like a little bit of camaraderie in there, like we have a different, maybe a different you know, a blueprint or floor plan than
Hmm.
each other, but the goal remains the same because up until, you know, up until projects like ours popped up,
Yeah.
the the places were kind of like the men's club, like the gentleman's
Hmm.
club, or
Hmm.
um you know, the golf course,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
you know, which are all great, and I would never take away from any of those things
Yeah. Yeah.
ever. Um,
Yeah.
but they're not always like these super accessible spaces for people, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. That's like a huge thing. That's a huge thing I'm finding with even getting men together. Men typically
Mhm.
meet in specific spaces, like you just said,
Yeah.
like the gym, the locker
Yep.
room. You know, maybe like social places. You know, like places that are just, yeah, you're right, not the most accessible to everyone. And I think
Yeah.
part of the conversation is making those spaces um, accessible, but I think it's a difficult way to. It's hard to make them accessible. Like, for example, when I'm in a locker room,
Yeah.
which is a typical masculine space,
Yeah.
um, I feel comfortable now, but I didn't always feel comfortable in the
Mm.
locker room. So I think for me, as becoming a man, I felt more comfortable in the locker room. And so, even saying that, how can we make that more accessible?
Yeah.
Honestly, the locker room will always be a kind of boys' club. But I
Right.
think for me, how I kind of deconstructed myself is I do whatever in a locker room. Like, I express myself in the locker room.
Yes.
I'm a queer man, so
Hmm.
being in a traditional masculine locker room sometimes intimidates me. But
Right.
otherwise, I just say, well, I'm in the locker room, and it's even just small conversations like that.
Yeah.
Um, one of our board members shared with me an idea for like having like a men's barbecue,
Yeah.
not like a typical men's barbecue, but having it like on like a International Women's Day. You know, so something that kind of gets people to think.
I love that.
Yeah, something that
Yes.
gets people to think about, um, like, what are we actually doing? Because a barbecue is a typical men's event. You
a
know,
hundred
the
percent.
guys are grilling, the women are, you know, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, we just need the community aspect. So
Yeah.
if we take apart all the masculine norms and all the traditional things that keep us kind of disconnected, I feel like then we just have spaces. There's no locker rooms. It's just everyone's free to express themselves, you know. And I think that's the heart
Mm.
of what I'm trying to do is, you know, just let's just have community. You know, let's just have community.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I literally, okay, so Calico and I, when we
Yeah.
started, coming up with things to throw in the calendar, I was
Hmm.
like, we're running Men's Mental Health Month is actually in June, which runs
Hmm.
simultaneously with Pride. And and
Hmm.
and and
Hmm.
and I acknowledge the fact that everything that you just said, so don't take this personal because
Hmm.
this isn't what I mean, but it's like
Hmm.
I was like, we're not going towards any sort of like rainbow. We're not doing any of that. We are honoring
Yeah.
men's mental health in Men's
Yeah.
Mental Health Month. People can do what
Hmm.
they need to do like around us, and that's fine. But this
Yeah.
is our goal. And it was interesting in the same way of having like a barbecue on International Women's Day. It's like
Hmm.
people were like, well, what the heck are you doing over here? Like, why aren't you on this
Yeah.
bandwagon with us? And we're
Yeah.
like, oh shoot, okay. Like, people were like, what's happening? Checking their calendars and stuff. They're like, this,
Yeah.
you lost your minds, right? We're like,
Yeah.
right. But how else do you get those conversations
Exactly. Yeah.
going?
I,
So,
I I totally agree. I think there's something about doing something out of the box and creative.
mhm,
I think that's part of the reason why I have so much fun actually doing the Dagen project is that I'm always thinking of what's a new innovative way to reach young people, for example.
yeah,
Young people that are really facing a huge mental health crisis at the moment. So young men, young Black men like me. So
yeah,
there's so many intersections for me that it makes it like, in a sense, like a social lab where I have to think about how can we actually solve these issues because it's a lot. It's a lot of stuff going on, and
yeah,
all we can do is to sit down together, think through it, and I think the more we have the conversations, the more solutions come up. Because even just having this conversation is
yeah.
probably lighting somebody's else's light bulb. So and that's what we're trying to do. So I appreciate that.
Well, and also to be able to do it in an untraditional way. Like
Yeah, yeah,
people
yeah.
know like the brand power behind some of these causes is so strong. So
Hmm.
we know what certain, imagery and certain symbolism means. And
Hmm.
kudos to them because it's very impressive how well that has happened.
Yeah.
It really is. But then where does everybody else go? What if I don't fit
Yeah.
into that box that looks like this? Or what if I don't fit into
Hmm.
the box like that looks like this, but I'm actually both of those things? Where is that
Hmm.
space? And that's where projects like the Dagen project out it's such an encumbersome, like, or not encumbersome, that's the wrong word. It's such an
Hmm.
umbrella
Umbrella.
to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
like, okay, like it's generic enough of it's a generic enough of a
Idea.
mission statement, an idea
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
everyone feels safe and protected without having to wear your complete heart on your sleeve, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not like,
Hmm.
okay, well, I have to identify as this or I have to be in this
Yeah,
box in order to feel
yeah,
safe here. You're like, this
yeah.
is just for the dudes, period. Like,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
totally. It's totally all for the dudes, just
Yeah.
period. Because
Yeah.
I think there's so many different kinds of men, and I always say this: everyone is different. So
Mhm.
when I started promoting for Dagen, like for the launch, I talked to a lot of men, and I realized a lot of men have different opinions about mental health. Some
Yes.
people don't. Some men don't even believe in it at all, and they
Right.
don't. And which is, well, that's their prerogative. But I think just seeing the diversity among men also lit up something inside of me because I was like, well, how do we reach all these people? Because
Yeah.
they're all so different. But that's why the launch for me was was something I had to work towards, and I felt like it had to be impactful because I wanted to cater to every man in a
Yeah.
sense.
Very
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, no, kudos to you. It makes sense to me. Like, and why the government didn't start with that, I have no idea. Right? Like,
I agree. I fully agree.
like missed opportunity, guys. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
that's wild. So
yeah.
tell me a little bit about what happened. You had an event this weekend, right?
Yes, we did. We had Paint and Sip. This is our
Mm.
first event. Such a fun event, actually. We did it with a friend of mine, and she has a gallery called Whispering Brush Gallery.
Oh
I
wow.
always say it. Yeah, so Whispering Brush Gallery. And she basically is kind of like a freelance artist, and she puts on workshops. And this was her first workshop first workshop in general, because she
Mm.
puts on kind of smaller ones, but this was her big one with us, and it was such a fun and engaging night. A lot of people shared about themselves. I find that we can always kind of feel actually safe to share, and it's not something that I plan or like put extensive thought behind. It just happens. It
Right.
just happens, and which
Yeah.
it makes it like it kind of de-stresses me a little bit, because
Yeah.
I'm always worried about, oh, like what if, people don't enjoy it, people don't feel good after it. But
Yeah.
even there was a teenager, like a young teenager I was talking to, and his mom basically brought him and his brother, and he was
Mhm.
like, yeah, I didn't think I'd enjoy it, but I actually liked it. And that made me so happy, because I was like, well,
Yes.
I did it just for you, because
Yeah.
it meant a lot to me that young people can feel that sense of expression, because it's just painting.
Yeah.
It's a way of expressing yourself. So it was really good. We had 15 guests, and basically we're gonna do it again because people really liked it. So
Mhm.
we'll watch out for more updates. We're probably gonna do it again in March, like early spring, and probably do another collaboration with Whispering Brush again. So yeah, hopefully we
Perfect.
can, yeah, get you guys on board too.
Listen, every time, okay, when you're like, "Oh, sorry, we're busy this weekend," I was like, "Did I miss another event? I missed another event. Why wasn't I there? What is happening? Like, I need to really throw this in the calendar. Like, we need to, yeah."
We
But
also need to put out a calendar too. So
right,
it's
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
we did one a long time ago, and we had
Mhm.
everything in there. Like, it was so great because you could just like look at it. It was like,
Yeah.
like a 31-day calendar or whatever, and you could see
Yeah.
like kind of events at a glance. But
Yeah.
when people like when we had to reschedule stuff and
Yeah.
like I was like, I don't know, man. Like, I don't know if this is it. Like, there's got to be a
Yeah.
better way to go about this because we're like pulling the picture down and trying. I was like, nah. And then people can see, so they're expecting that. And I can
Mhm.
appreciate sticking to a calendar,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
sticking to the events. But I even have like challenges come up when we have to reschedule something, and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm
Totally.
gonna. But with you guys, I guess it's a little bit different because those are like big outdoor events where like people
Yeah.
need that information
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
go to like participate. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing though. We're all capable of finding this information. You do such a good job of like, having the information out there. Like,
Mhm.
so, it's really up to me to just
No,
like,
no, I will say though that attending events is hard. Like it's actually hard to like we have an upcoming event this Friday. It's like sort of like this. It's just a mental health talk, and it's about inspiration in mental health. Because one of
mhm,
our mission is to empower and support men who feel disconnected,
yeah.
uninspired, and disconnected, uninspired, and unmotivated. So, our first theme for the talk is inspiration and mental health. And funny enough, it's really like it's hard to draw men to talk. Obviously, we already know this, but
Right.
the reality of actually planning an event for men to talk has been really challenging. So
Just to get them
it's
there.
just to get
Hmm.
them there, because one of the things that we're actually thinking about is how men show up to things. Like, is it a buddy that brings them along, or is it their wife? Is it their partner? Is it their
Yeah.
spouse? Like who? Like how do they actually come and they have a
Yeah.
good time, and they go back home? You know?
It really depends on like so we target like the blue collar sector specifically.
Hmm.
Like that is
Hmm.
our target market. We're going after the blue collar people
Yeah.
and more so maybe the ones that like are single. And so we're like tits and cars, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like okay, like if we're going to do an event like
Yeah.
it's going to be like a car show with a bunch of babes or something.
Right.
Like that's kind of
Right.
like um
That's
right?
hilarious.
But you kinda have to be, like, that forward about it to, like
Yeah.
to make sure that it happens, and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess a lot of the times it is, like, people that bring a friend or bring their partner,
Mhm.
which is great, except for I mean, if a man can talk to his wife about what he's going through, they can usually
Mhm.
problem solve, like, in that space together.
Mhm.
And not to say that not every married man is like, has it going on, but usually
Mhm.
like, or what I found is that when we do events, we've had more success with people coming as individuals or with their friends more so than with their partners or spouses. They tend not
Mhm.
to want to be as transparent. They don't want to be as forthcoming. They don't want to
Mhm.
be like, they really don't even want to acknowledge the fact that they're like at something that's associated with mental health. And that might just
Mhm.
be like the pride
Mhm.
thing, or like the I am the man and
Yeah.
this is my family that I take care of, and there's like a very
Yeah.
seriousness about that. So like,
Yeah.
to show any sort of fault or falter in there, like it just can't be.
Yeah.
um
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, yeah, how do you get these guys there? And
Yeah.
like, to get you kind of just got to bring like what is I don't know, it's tough. I mean, it's
Yeah.
tough. I think about it all the
And
time.
what makes it tougher is when you think of um, immigrant men as well. I think one of the things that I always come from a perspective of, because my father's an immigrant, I'm a second generation immigrant. So
Mhm. Yeah.
having conversations with them specifically about mental health sometimes is really challenging. And it's really hard to actually get them there because they believe mental health is only for some people. I think that's one of the conversations that, I mean, there's multiple conversations, but one of the big things is that, people still think that mental health is only for some people that, just need that help. But
Well, it's for
everyone,
sick people,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, I'm Caribbean, so like, I'm Jamaican, and
yeah,
it's like, to deal with mental health is like, right next to like being a deputy or something. Like, it's like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's just not
yeah.
acknowledged. And
It's not a ground. Yeah, yeah.
which is
It's
like the struggle, right? Like, that is the
yeah,
struggle. Like,
it's a struggle.
like, I guess
Mm,
maybe like, how do you target the first and second generation
mhm,
Canadians,
mhm.
because it's a myth essentially.
It's a myth, yeah. And even breaking down that myth is one of the things. It's like, I think with my parents, it was easy to have the conversation. Well, I won't say it was easy to have the conversation. I think it got easier once they realized I was like fully, like I was experiencing a major depressive episode. So they were like,
Mm.
well, we can't not acknowledge the reality that
Yeah.
is, So for me, it was really tough for me because I was like, oh, they would never understand. But they actually made a lot of attempts. Like my dad would research. My dad
Wow.
he's a professor. He's a chemistry professor back home, and he still works in the chemistry field. So he just started to research about mental health and actually learn about it himself. And he would do things that I thought were not helpful, but he
Yeah.
was doing the research, which I think is so important for mental health. Is like, you can educate people. Like, hopefully we get to a point where we're all not treating it as something taboo or something like,
Yeah.
like a stigma. We just talk about it like we talk about anything else. And, hopefully we'll get there, but yeah, it's
Well,
small steps.
I think we're on our way.
Yeah, yeah,
Daz Exotics in the comments, and he said
yeah.
he said something to the effect of like, I don't think of tits and cars when I think of Pinecase. Like, what are you talking about? Which is totally fair, because it's not. And I guess like,
Right.
and he's right. Like, we don't really take advantage of either of those things. It really is like having regular folks like us come on here and talk about
Let's
it,
talk about
and
it. Yeah.
bring it to a space where it's like, we're normalizing it and bringing some human content to it, because you look like a totally normal dude and I look like a totally normal chick. Like, there's nothing
Exactly. Yeah.
outrageous about anything. There's nothing, and
Yeah.
not to say it matters what you look like, but I mean,
Yeah.
if you were going to
Yeah.
pick two people out of a crowd to be like just completely regular folks, like,
Yeah.
we are it. And
Yeah.
yet
Yeah.
we have this massive mission
Yeah.
individually to like talk about mental health. And
Mhm.
so, I mean, I think that is the winning space right there, is to like
Yeah.
show people that you don't have to be the homeless dude on the corner ranting about
Yeah.
religion and the
Yeah.
aliens and stuff to be talking about, mental health, or you don't have to, you know, be a modge podge of
Mhm.
art and hair accessories, or you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it's, you don't have
I
to be super
absolutely do.
eccentric,
Yeah,
like to be
yeah,
having
yeah,
these conversations.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I think that's like, you know, that's the goal, is just to bring some just regular face to these
mhm,
hard topics and conversations.
mhm.
And yeah, shout out to Dad's Exotic for like he's like, man, I don't know what you're talking about, tits and cars. I don't see no tits and cars around here. What you be like,
I'm glad he set that straight.
yeah. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's so funny. Gosh.
Right.
That's wild. So what's on the horizon for you guys? Like, do you guys have
Yeah.
anything? I mean, because the sip and paint is such a great thing. People already kind of know what they're to
Mhm.
expect when they look at events like that. But is there anything that people can be, you know,
Yeah.
looking out for?
Yeah. So February is an exciting month for us. We have a thing called a Buddy Up program. So
Mm,
we're doing a walk buddy program. Basically, we're pairing people in the neighborhood, men. We're going to connect men together, and we're going to facilitate a walk every Saturday. Sorry, every second Saturday. So
mm,
that walk would be between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. And basically, there will be two walk buddies, and there will be a third person who's the walk buddy facilitator. So basically, three buddies, but the third person is just the facilitator
okay.
in case one person doesn't show up. But yeah, so that's really exciting because we have applications opening on February 1st. So we're going to be taking applications for like the first round of the Dagen Buddy Walk program.
Yeah.
So that's right at the start of Black History Month. So I'm super excited for
Yeah.
that. And then we also have a conference coming up. So it's
Oh wow.
called the Love Letter to Men. So the Dagen Project is part of the Alberta Men's Collaborative, which was founded in 2024. And basically, the collaborative puts on an annual conference called Love Letter to Men. And it's put on by Mike Cameron, who's a mental health speaker, very great guy. I met him, very great speaker. And so Love Letter to Men is basically just a way to, again, have these conversations, to build community with other men. And it's a virtual conference. So they have great speakers. I think they have a number of special stars that I'm not supposed to talk about.
Right. Yeah. Don't be doing that.
but we are having a watch party for the Love Letter to Men conference.
Very
So
cool.
once we announce we've announced the date. It's February 18th, but we haven't announced the location yet. So follow us on social media. Watch out for that. But that's the big two things we have coming up. So the Dagen Walk Buddy program,
Yeah.
and then the Love Letter to Men conference.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
really exciting.
yeah, I'm
Um,
excited.
Yeah, that's really neat. The conference part is always challenging. We were well, I
Yeah.
personally was before Pinecase started, and the list was actually really impressive. And I was like, "Oh, how can I not? I want to tell everybody." Like,
I
I
know.
totally get it.
Yeah, yeah,
That's cool. And so,
yeah.
what spurred on the walk? If you don't mind filling me in a little bit, the buddy program. That's interesting.
Sure, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it's this is a program created by something called Pathways.
Hmm.
Pathways is one of our original programs that I've created myself. It's simple. It's just four paths. So oh God, I have to remember them. The physical path. The first one is the physical path. The
Yeah.
second is the environmental path. The spiritual path is the third one, and the fourth is the creative path. So basically, what are these pathways? These are just a way that we structure our events. So path one is typically physical events. So things that get you walking or jogging or moving your body. So we could have like the Walk Buddy program falls under that kind of physical path. Then
Hmm.
we have the second, which is the environmental path, which looks at the relationships you have with your community. So we would have workshops centered around close relationship or familiar relationships. Then the spiritual path is obviously exploring your spiritual self. which means your values, not necessarily if you believe in a religion, but just your core values, whatever that is. Then the fourth is just creative, which is you get to make your own. You start your own initiative, or you go wherever your heart leads you. But the idea of the Pathways program is to kind of guide men and boys through a series of events or workshops that kind of makes them more well-rounded. So the Dagen Walk Buddy is our first pilot program where we're basically testing how we can actually make a walk program. So we're going to actually do like a survey first to kind of see the demographics, because we also want to start with different neighborhoods. So I live in the West Side, so we would start from the West Side because Dagen is also based on the West Side. So neighborhoods that are around my neighborhood, we would survey and kind of start pairing men together. And then once we pair them together, then we can actually start the walk program. So it's a step-by-step process. So we're starting with the survey. We're starting with applications for people to enter the program. And then once we're done that, the program would actually start in the summertime. So it's kind of like all the pre stuff, all the earlier stuff is being done right now because we want to actually get people to walk. And that's just the straight up mission, to get people to walk.
It's so simple, but it's so genius, because there's so many times, man, like the amount of times that I'm like, I would go if I had someone to walk with, or like, it's just like, man, if you have it on your calendar and you know it has to happen, like, okay, I'll be there. I'll make myself available. Like I'll, get my water bottle and like we'll make it happen.
You just grab your water bottle and you join your walk buddy. I think a lot of people want to get walking, so like why not start walking with somebody? So that's the idea.
Well, and then it kind of mirrors like a sponsorship from like, AA or NA or whatever. It's like you have that person in your life, like the conversations that can come from that. They're they're not biased. They don't hold a space in your life other than this walk. And so what a safe space to be able to like have some conversations and know that it's not going to go anywhere. Like I think it's brilliant. It's so easy. I mean, it makes perfectly good sense, and it seems so simple, but at the same time, like where would you go? I wouldn't know where to go to like find somebody to walk with, like you know what I mean? And so when you have something like the Dagen Project above it, you're like, okay, I know that like what the mission is and what my goal is, and like all I got to do is show up. So that's
and it's also a good way to build relationships just from the ground level. So like I think one thing that I thought about when I was creating it was that it would be nice if like years after I'd be like, oh, my Dagen walk buddy, we're still good friends, just because we had that relationship just walking. And you're right, lots of conversation comes from just walking. So
I would almost guarantee that that'll be half of your volunteer base, right?
Exactly.
So I mean because that's totally how that happens. Like Calico and I, I mean, now we've grown a little bit more, so we have like our admin staff like Felice and Candy, and they run our community, and they're absolutely amazing. Actually, shout out to Candy. She's got her 60 days today, which is just fantastic. So we're all walks of life and kind of from all over the place, but Calico specifically right now, she's running this she runs harm reduction at music events.
Wow,
like and so she's got like a team of volunteers, and that's exactly how it happens. They like come for one thing and then they stay forever, and just like like so that I guarantee that the structure that comes the structure of people that come from that first time, because it's a continual thing that these people can rely on each other for, you'll probably see them a lot in a lot of your events, or like when you guys need somebody to like put signs out, or we need people at the end of the bridge to like totally like those will end up being like your team of people for sure. That's really cool. That's really awesome. And I love that you guys are in Edmonton. I mean, it makes it super accessible for me. I think Edmonton is one of those places. It's an absolute cultural hub. The city itself does a fantastic job of bringing a ton of like not just nightlife but like, you know, day life into the city. And so to have something that's like, you know, born in that place, that is in that space, that's specific for dudes, you know, you're talking about like the blue collar capital of Canada, essentially. I don't know if there is, I mean, I guess Fort McMurray would maybe be like the birth child of Edmonton, essentially, but like Edmonton is definitely like where everybody goes to fly up to Fort Mac, and Fort Mac is where, I mean, Alberta, right? And so it's super, super cool to see projects like this in essentially like ground zero for where I would consider like men's mental health should be. So
I agree. Thank you for saying that. I think Edmonton is a great place to be because I've also lived here for quite a bit. So I do. I have my moments where I don't like Edmonton, but I think it's a great place to be.
Yes. Yeah. Does those moments come around like November 31st when the blizzards start hitting? Like...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh man. How do you explain that to somebody? I was talking, we have so I co-host a show on Mondays through Let's Vibe TV. It's called The Case of the Mondays with Daz Exotic, and it's in Atlanta. And so obviously the weather down there is never what is doing up here. And every time I talk to them, I'm like, man, it's like 8 feet of snow outside. I can't leave my house. There's like 16 cars piled up. Like the highway's shut down, like Highway 2, and you know, they're just like, what are you talking about?
That's Alberta. That's Alberta for you.
Yeah, right. Like, see, like I have some proof now. I like got somebody in the neighborhood. I'm like, I'm not lying. I promise I'm not lying.
It's true. It's true.
It's so
we have
bad.
to plug our cars in, so it's true.
It's
true. It's true.
Yeah, exactly. That's the question. Like, does your car have a plug-in? No. Then you don't know.
You don't know. Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree.
That's so funny. Yeah, this is my first vehicle that I've ever like bought that has a plug-in, like, and I'm like, this is wild. Like, but it only takes one time of like your battery not starting where you're like, I need one of those cars that plug in.
Yeah. Once your battery dies the one time, you'll definitely plug it in.
Totally. Oh, that's so funny. Very cool. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us tonight and to tell us about this beautiful project and explain a little bit of like, you know, the background and the reasons why it's so important and it's so lovely. And it's nice to see just some regular folks doing some things that make sense to bring awareness and to bring conversation to such an important topic. So, you know, we really do appreciate that. I know I can speak for everybody that's hanging out with us tonight, that they absolutely agree. Calico says very inspiring projects. Yeah, Candy says absolutely, everyone. And so, you know, I mean, it goes without saying that you obviously have a friend and an ally in us. So whatever you need, you just let us know, and we'll make sure that we participate and support in any way that we can. So.
Wow. Thank you, Kalisha. That's so kind. I definitely felt at home because I told Kalisha like just before, I was like, I've never been on a podcast. I'm not really sure. I don't really do this. Like I'm actually quite an introvert. So
really?
You know, like I am.
What? That's wild. Yeah, you're super casual.
It's only because when I need to kind of be out there and outgoing. And for this, it definitely puts me in a spotlight in some sense, but I try to manage it. So I also really wanted to thank Calico and the team for just facilitating this to happen. Ever since I met you, I was like looking forward to actually being on the show. So this is kind of great. So thank you.
No, absolutely. It's like I said, it's our privilege and honor. So thank you everyone for hanging out with us tonight. I'm gonna keep everybody around for a few extra seconds, so don't go too far because we're gonna run through this like I promised everybody I would make an absolute point. So Here we go. Hashtag 988 is the suicide hotline, you guys. Hashtag 988, it is for Canada and for the States. So you can go ahead and use that hashtag 988. That will put you through to the professionals. Now, if you need a warm line where you just want to text somebody and you just need somebody there, our team is available 24/7. Thank you, Calico, for putting in the comments. Our number is 250-289-3948. Yeah, hashtag 988 Lifeline. That's right. Our number is 250-289-3948. That's a warm line. So that's available for if you feel like you're going to relapse, if you just need somebody to talk to, if your partner's driving you crazy, if, if things are just too heavy, like we are available 24/7. So you guys go ahead and don't hesitate to use that. And if you're looking for naloxone kits, they are available. So for us up in Canada, you guys are going to find them at any pharmacy, London Drugs, Shoppers Drug Mart, Save On. There was another one. Oh, Rite Aid was the one that came up last time when we were talking about down in the States. So that's going to be like your hub. I'm also going to put the link in the comments for everybody that is looking for them to order. Tiana with Scar Nation was lovely to reach out to us after the show last week. And she does have the nasal spray ones. So we'll make sure that you guys have those available to whoever who needs them. And of course, we have these kits, which are free for everybody up here. And again, you can find them at London Drugs, Shoppers. I keep saying Save On, and I don't know why I keep saying Save On. It's not Save On. Not Safeway. Anywhere with a pharmacy. Anywhere with a pharmacy. Why do I keep saying Save On? Does Save On have a pharmacy? They must. Save On?
I think they do.
I don't know why I keep... That's so funny. Okay. I find mine at Shoppers Drug Mart. The other place that you guys can find harm reduction supplies at is in your ER. You can go in there and let them know what you need, and they will give you all of that stuff. If you guys want a demonstration or you need any sort of details, you can go ahead and reach out to me, and we'll do all of that. And we do have a video up on YouTube, so we'll throw the link in the description on where you guys can find all of that stuff. I know I've been running through it a little bit quick, and I'll make a video so you guys know exactly what's going on. But just a really quick relapse. Naloxone saves lives. It is the Good Samaritan Act that you guys can take advantage of. If you see somebody go down, you're not going to hurt them to use naloxone on them. And so depending on what they're dealing with, it isn't going to hurt except for opiates, which is what you're going to save their life with. So what I'm saying right now is that it does not hurt a pregnant lady. It does not hurt somebody who is drinking. It does not hurt somebody who is on a stimulant. It's only going to solve a problem for somebody who is having an overdose for opiates. So please go ahead and get your free kits, take advantage of them, take advantage of the Good Samaritan Act or the Good Samaritan Law, and call 911 and use these naloxone kits on each other. You guys, people are dropping like flies. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the numbers for the blue collar sector are skyrocketing right now. It's actually beating out the unhoused population. And not that it's a race for either of those things, but I think that it's very jarring when we talk about the blue collar and, us regular folks and, our kids don't have an opportunity to even experiment with things anymore because, unfortunately, fentanyl is in everything. Calico is saying that there's benzo testing kits also available. I know she has some. I have some as well. So you guys can reach out and we'll send them to you in the mail. No problem. So again, really quickly, that is hashtag 988 for the suicide hotline. It'll put you straight through to who you need to talk to. And then you can reach the Pinecase team at 250-289-3948 for a warm line. And we're there 24/7 to have a chat, send you guys your kits, talk about whatever, because we want you here and not anywhere else. So, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Victor, for being patient with me while I ran through that.
Thank you. No, thank you for your work. I got to catch up with all the comments, and thank you guys. I really appreciate the love. I didn't even realize they were comments.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's yeah, shout out to everybody who came and hung out with us tonight. We see you, we love you, we appreciate you. You guys, your support does not go unnoticed. And thank you for everybody. You guys go and check out the Dagen Project. Go and like, share, follow, subscribe. It's good to have an ally in a situation like this. We need all the support and humanitarian as we can take. So don't hesitate when you go over and check them out. But yeah, once again, Victor, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate your time, your dedication to the mental health awareness cause and all the stuff that comes with that. And yeah, you guys, I guess we'll take care. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.
Put me in the dirt, increase my work, the expert. You see the hunger in the eyes of a survivor. Swallowed my pride, washed down with some saliva. Reinvented my whole life, mental MacGyver. One door shut, another open up, brighter. Listen, battle drums in the distance, moving with enough force like army tank pistons. Pray for the strength of Jah to fight resistance. Fight mode, shields up, moving with resilience.
With the strength of 1,000 lion and the strength of 1,000 giant, please stay strong. Please stay strong. With the strength of 1,000 elephant and the strength of 1,000 tiger, we stay strong. We stay strong. We stay strong.
The further you take my rights away, I'ma run to it, refuse to hear my voice. Speak loud when I spit it, but you don't get it. You just wanna be a side critic. See somebody else showing hate in the side of the road with it. Now how would you feel standing on the sideline and watch the color of a nation deteriorate over time? The flag real high, but compassion 6 feet below. Now you're searching for that justice that decided to never show. Deny my place, I'm back with a trace. Keep up the pace, tight lace, game face, get back in the race. Whatever they did could never be undone. Every dark night ends with the rising of the sun. Squandered every wealth that's built from the mud. Squandered every wealth that's built from the blood. Squandered every wealth that's built in chains. Stolen from the ancestors, running through my veins.
With the strength of 1,000 lion and the strength of 1,000 giant, please stay strong. Please stay strong. With the strength of 1,000 elephant and the strength of 1,000 tiger, we stay strong. We stay strong.